The political class and the elite class care more about a bonfire trying to make a point that we've got to stop this illegal invasion of our southern border than they do the illegal invasion of our southern border. And remember, those people in that bonfire, and I will point out that the left have never had any issues with bonfires of Boris Johnson or Donald Trump or Nigel Farage. They don't care when it's white men, effigies of white men going up in flames. But remember, these people who are coming across on the boats are criminals, are in many cases people who literally want to blow us up. Breaking right now, fury on the left over a Northern Irish bonfire which wants to put the issue of stopping the boats at the heart of the agenda. This comes as this afternoon, Keir Starmer, Slippery Starmer, and that little weasel midget, Emmanuel Macron, have come up with the most crap deal, 17 in, 1 out. So, we're going to debate all of this now, but first let me show you this bonfire video and the outrage around it. Big news, Outspoken is now available as a podcast too. So please do subscribe wherever you get yours, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and make sure you rate and review. I'll take 5 stars, if you may.
Police are facing calls to remove a migrant and refugee display placed on a loyalist bonfire in County Tyrone. A boat with effigies of migrants alongside the writing "Stop the Boats" appeared on a bonfire in Moygashill overnight. SDLP councillor Malachy Quinn condemned the latest display. He said that he was absolutely disgusted to see yet another overtly racist and threatening display appear on the bonfire in Moygashill.
Well, they might be disgusted, but this is the whole issue. That the political class and the elite class care more about a bonfire trying to make a point that we've got to stop this illegal invasion of our southern border than they do the illegal invasion of our southern border. And remember, those people in that bonfire, and I will point out that the left have never had any issues with bonfires of Boris Johnson or Donald Trump or Nigel Farage. They don't care when it's white men, effigies of white men going up in flames. But remember, these people who are coming across on the boats are criminals, are in many cases people who literally want to blow us up, who literally want to rape our wives and our sisters and our mothers, who literally want to murder us on the streets of Sadiq Khan's London for a Rolex watch. So forgive me if I cannot buy into the moral hysteria over a bonfire. And of course, what we've seen this afternoon at Downing Street is a complete capitulation yet again from Slippery Starmer. Now, this was predicted. If you saw the front pages of the newspapers this morning, we knew we were not going to get a good deal, because what this apparent 1 in, 1 out deal actually means is that we take in 17 illegals and the French take back 1. But Starmer has just spoken at a press conference in the past few minutes and claimed that this is going to make all the difference in the world.
So I'm pleased to announce our agreement today on a groundbreaking returns pilot. For the very first time, migrants arriving via small boat will be detained and returned to France in short order. In exchange for every return, a different individual will be allowed to come here via a safe route, controlled and legal, subject to strict security checks, and only open to those who have not tried to enter the UK illegally. This will show others trying to make the same journey that it will be in vain, and the jobs they've been promised in the UK will no longer exist.
As Will Kingston posted on X, I had to check this wasn't satire. It's not. Chris Rose added, Keir Starmer is set to agree 17 in, 1 out migrant deal with France. Starmer is the worst negotiator in history. Britain always loses whenever he negotiates. This would amount to 95% of illegal migrants crossing the Channel staying in Britain. And the reality is that this is all because Macron is a treacherous little weasel who wants the United Kingdom to suffer, who is doing this for domestic political gain, and Starmer refuses to accept that. So we have rolled out the red carpet for an enemy. And at this press conference in the past few moments, Starmer decided to get a little bit mad when someone in the MSM actually pointed this out to him. Watch.
You said during your opening address that since January the numbers have dramatically risen, and they have. Whose fault is that, yours or the man standing next to you?
Stefan, firstly, in response to just the last bit of your question, we both have a responsibility together to solve this. And one of the problems, to my mind, in the past has been the finger pointing, the blame game, the megaphone politics, which has achieved precisely nothing on this and many other issues, which is why we've never engaged in it. It is why the EU-UK reset was a success, because I said at the outset we're not going to engage in the politics of finger-pointing, blaming, and going to the nearest microphone to disparage our partners. And it's exactly the same approach that I take with Emmanuel on this issue. It is both of our responsibilities. I'm not.
To my superstar panel we go, Bernie Spofforth and Lee Harris. So, Bernie, this burning of the effigies in County Tyrone, why are the left getting so up in arms about it when they haven't given a damn about doing the same thing when it's Farage or Trump?
Because it's one of their, little projects, right? They love all this mass immigration stuff. You look at, they were completely fine at Glastonbury. They were completely fine to burn effigies of Katie Hopkins on a bonfire. Did you see her post earlier? Hilarious. They were completely happy to do that. But wasn't it the left who wanted to ban having Guy Fawkes on bonfires? Yes, I think it was. It's so completely hypocritical. The small boat situation is utterly out of control. And in Ireland, where that bonfire is, the situation is even worse than it is in the UK, if that's possible. And nobody is being listened to. Anybody who raises the subject is, of course, a bigot and a racist. And I think it's ludicrous. Look, I probably would say that the bonfire is a little bit dangerous because every year it's enormous, right? That's my biggest problem, not the thing they have on the top.
But first, these days we're living through economic whiplash, soaring prices, vanishing savings, and headlines that seem designed to confuse more than inform. We're told that this is all normal, that history is being rewritten for our own good, and that embracing these changes is the only path forward. But every outlet tells a different version of reality, and the so-called fact checkers are just enforcing the approved narrative. Luckily, there's a solution. It's Ground News. It's hands down the easiest way to stay informed. It cuts through all the bias and spin so you can actually see what's going on and make up your mind. I have it on my phone and in my bookmarks online because it's become so essential to my daily life, and I'd love you to check it out for yourself at ground.news/outspoken. I'm going to tell you about a huge discount in a moment. But first, I just want to show you this website and app in action. So let's take one story, but you could use any story. But we're going to take the story of Donald Trump agreeing to cut tariffs on UK auto, steel, and aluminium as part of a trade deal with Britain, one that could reshape global trade and has sparked debate on both sides of the political aisle. Now, you can see quite clearly in one place on Ground News that over 500 sources are covering the story. Ground News then instantly shows how the story is being covered by the media, broken down by whether they leave to the left or the right. This is called the bias distribution chart. Then if you scroll down, you can see every headline about the story along with the political bias and ownership of the publication. Most of the coverage is from outlets in the political centre, but here's where it gets interesting. 49% of the sources come from outlets owned by giant media conglomerates. So no wonder the narratives feel so coordinated, right? When looking at the headlines, the left covered the story with scepticism. Wired fixated on the struggling reputation of Jaguar and framed the deal as a potential way to resurrect the brand. Bloomberg chose vague language, calling it a framework, which subtly questions whether the deal is even real. But the coverage on right-leaning outlets far more confident, with GB News celebrating a major victory for UK auto manufacturers and the New York Sun calling it a full and comprehensive trade deal that strengthens US-UK ties. Now, my favourite feature of Ground News is the blind spot feed. Every day, it will surface upwards of 20 stories that receive the majority of coverage from one side of the political spectrum. If you love the news like I do, the blind spot feed is the best way to get a balanced perspective on what's happening. So go to ground.news/outspoken, or if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, just scan the QR code on screen to subscribe today. You will get 40% off the same Vantage plan I use for unlimited access. That's ground.news/outspoken for 40% off this incredible service. But now, back to the show.
Yeah, I find the hypocrisy utterly hilarious. I mean, we've seen it before with the left, haven't we? As everyone's already said, they're quite happy to burn whoever they like, but as soon as you pick something that's close to their hearts, we're all hell breaks loose. So I genuinely have found it quite funny, but I'm also kind of pleased that they're doing it because, as Bernie said, this is a really, really big issue, and hopefully things like this will keep it in people's minds that, we have had enough of this. And I think this is why we are starting to see a change in the political landscape now. People are much happy to consider voting for a third party. They're just fed up with it. We look at the Red Wall. The Red Wall don't really have any loyalty anymore. And it's issues like this that are being raised, potentially by these things, like having a massive bonfire does bring attention to it. So I'm pleased in some respects that this is happening, because yet again, it's bringing attention to a subject which doesn't actually need a huge amount more attention, to be honest. It is one of the biggest things that the British public are talking about. And it's one of the things that, I listened to I found the whole thing with Macron and Starmer, they're very similar people. If they really wanted to stop the boats, everyone knows that we could do it within 5 days. We had the French Navy in the Channel today escorting another migrant vessel over the Channel. All we need is another vessel, another Navy vessel in the Channel, and they could cooperate, and within 24 hours they could stop these boats coming across. You'd only need to do that for 5 days, and they just wouldn't bother doing it, because they know they couldn't get past those naval vessels. So that's what frustrates me about this. I think Keir Starmer put out a tweet saying working together for working people or something. Well, I couldn't help myself. I had to reply to say, you're not working together to help working people. You're working together to facilitate illegal migration across the Channel. And that is exactly what they are doing. We all know that Macron wants as many of those migrants out of France as possible.
Yes.
And he knows. And, Starmer completely misunderstands Macron and the French in general. You can roll out the red carpet to the French. You can give them the thick end of £1 billion. You can arrange a state visit and they will lap it up, but it will never, ever change their views. They'll give us absolutely nothing. This New Deal, complete waste of time. It was pathetic in the first place. We have such a high acceptance rate for these migrants that they're just going to be accepted in anyway. It's going to be 1 in 17 in by the time they finish just allowing everyone to access our asylum system, because they know there's a very high chance they're going to get accepted anyway. So the whole thing is a charade, and I find it insulting, Dan, that they're even trying to sell this like everything else they try and sell the British public. It's all a lie. It's all a complete load of nonsense. This country needs to stand up for itself and believe in itself. And part of that is protecting our borders. And they just won't do it. We've had 14 years of the Conservatives, 13 years of the Labour Party prior to that. If they were going to do something about it, they would have done it already. I'm done with both of them.
Yeah, I completely agree with him. I completely agree with you. Starmer and his little globalist, I want to be on the world stage, he's decided that Britain also has the problem. Well, we don't. We're an island. We don't have the problem.
Whoa. Talk about our king, our king. Because it's like, if we have no borders, Your Majesty, then you have no kingdom. You're out of a job. Let's think about that. But Bernie, what did you make of the very obvious annoyance from Slippery Starmer at that press conference? He just hates reality being pointed out, doesn't he? And he thinks that trying to pretend that he has a close personal relationship with Macron, which may well be true. I mean, lots of people have spoken about just how close these two are. Okay, fine. He's not getting the policy that we need.
But he was never going to. That isn't what Starmer believes in, is it? This 1 in, 1 out, 17 in is a complete joke. As they come into this country and they are accepted into this country, it changes them into legal migrants, so we can never get rid of them. Everything Starmer does is incredibly arrogant. It's his belief. It doesn't matter what the people think. He doesn't listen to the people. And if you look at what he's done with his attorney general today, it means that effectively we have a civil servant now in charge of every minister and every department in the entire government. So all the time, if you have a new government, like Labour, for example, you do need to write some new laws. You might have to bend a couple of laws, like with the Chagos Islands. We didn't need to follow that international decision. We just decided to. Well, the Attorney General has now decided that any minister that looks like it might be wanting to break the law to change policy, and it'll include all of these illegal migrant policies, have to go through him first. So he can effectively veto decisions made by politicians. That's not democracy. And I don't think Starmer likes democracy. I think Starmer wants things done the way the UN dictate, the way the EU dictate. And we know that Macron has already said today, when are you coming back to the EU? We want you back in the EU. Well, hold on a minute, mate. We had a democratic vote on that and we left you. That's it.
And obviously, Lee, the story that I think has horrified most of us today is of this man, Blue Stevens, 26 years old. Here he is. And last night, he was wearing his Rolex watch outside Park Tower Hotel and Casino. Now, that is in Knightsbridge in London, one of the most exclusive parts of London. I was actually having dinner just down the road at that same time, and he was stabbed to death for his Rolex watch. And just before we came on air, I felt like I had to say something about this. So I posted of Sadiq Khan under this truly evil man. London, the world's former greatest city, is now completely unsafe. Step out on the streets with a phone in your hand, you'll be mugged. Step out with an expensive watch on your wrist, you'll be killed. F you, Sadiq Khan. This is on you. Time is up. And I feel like, Lee, we obviously don't know the circumstances yet, but I feel like this is going to be one of these crimes that really resonates because it is so indicative of the fall of not just London under Khan, but the United Kingdom under Labour.
I couldn't agree more with everything you've just said. I saw this story briefly earlier, and like many others that saw it, I was really hit home. Sadiq Khan's London. I mean, I've been spending quite a bit of time in London myself recently, and even I've noticed it. It's not a safe place anymore. It's gone massively downhill over the years. And what happened to this poor lad should not be happening to anyone. I think it wasn't that long ago. It made me think actually that we had those videos being pumped out by the Met who cracked down specifically on these watch thieves. I think it was 6 months ago or something like that. But it clearly hasn't stuck. And just like everything else with Sadiq Khan, the only thing Sadiq Khan is interested in is Sadiq Khan. He's probably one of the biggest narcissists apart from Keir Starmer that we actually have in UK politics. He has absolutely no interest in keeping people safe. All he is interested in is self-publicising. The man is an absolute disgrace. He is destroying London, and I just can't understand. I can understand why he keeps getting elected, but we need to try and stop that from happening in future, because the man is utterly tearing London apart. Everything that we hold dear in this country is slowly being lost, and it's people like Sadiq Khan who are making it happen. You know, I feel a bit worried about bringing my 9-year-old daughter to London now, who she absolutely loves London. We want to take her back to do the Tower of London and do more stuff like that. But even I'm on edge about, you know, bringing my daughter to London.
It's terrifying. And Bernie, look at this young dad, 26 years old, and he's murdered on the streets of Cannes, London for his watch. And by the way, anyone who says, oh, these are freak crimes, these are not freak crimes. No. I have been mugged for my phone twice in London, totally non-violent, but still an absolutely horrible experience. On a third occasion, I had two guys on a motorbike completely covered in black pull up and try and get my phone. I didn't let them on that occasion because that's your instant reaction. But this guy who would have had the exact same reaction, Blue, has been killed. So this happens all the time. My fiance's sister had just traveled down on the train from Scotland. This was a couple of weeks ago. And she literally stepped out on the street of London for the first time since arriving from Scotland. This was in Mayfair, and her phone was swiped from her hand, and the security guards all around her, because she was outside some sort of restaurant, just said, don't even bother, don't even bother, don't even call the police. This is the problem. No one even calls the police. We are now lawless. London is now a lawless city, Bernie.
I agree. And you would expect, wouldn't you, as a country, that the government would stage an intervention, right, at some point. Because if I was in charge, I'd be taking that £22 billion we're giving to make carbon capture machines, and I'd be building a massive prison, because all of these people need to be put away. There is no deterrent. People get slapped on the wrist. Today, we're told that, oh, if it's just a mugging, then, you know, maybe there could be some other restitution. Well, that means that crime absolutely pays. And all we'll do for this poor young dad is, you know, we'll sing some songs, we'll have a vigil, we'll light some candles, and then we're not allowed to talk about it. And it's got to stop. Who is going to stop the violence in London? Who is going to make a stand? Because it isn't going to be Sadiq Khan, and it isn't going to be this government. And frankly, I don't hear any other party talking about it either. It's got to stop.
Absolutely heartbroken about this story. I couldn't agree more, Bernie. It has to stop. But of course, that's why mass deportations, the end of the invasion, all of this is linked. And that is the problem. Until people start realizing that all of this is linked to that issue, our open borders, it won't stop.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source, and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.